and welcome to Mind Gourmet. My name is Nina Kaiser. I'm the co-founder of Mind Gourmet and, as always, your host today. You might know my today's guest from one of our last interviews. It's British entrepreneur and kindness ambassador, creator of the Vitality Test and co-founder of the 5 Institute, Nick Haines. Hi, Nick. Welcome.
Oh, welcome. Thank you very much, Nina. It's really good to be on your show again. It's one of my absolute favorites. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to have you back as well. And I'm so looking forward to dive into our topic of the 5 energies today. But before we do so, I will introduce you just a little bit to our audience. Nick Haines is a kindness ambassador at the 5 Institute, as well as an international speaker, author, strategist, and teacher in Chinese energetics. For over 35 years, he has been practically applying the wisdom of Chinese philosophy within personal development, business, health, leadership, relationships, and international change. He co-authored The Story of Boxes, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly with Runa Magnus. So, would you take us on a little journey deeper into who you are and actually what led you to what you do today?
Okay. Well, I think, like a lot of us in life, we have a series of accidents that are always really good in some way, and they lead us to a certain place. So I first started, when I was young, I used to have a lot of acupuncture. When I was 13, 14, I had a lot of acupuncture and was involved. My mother was very interested in Chinese medicine. And then when I was about 20 and slightly lost, my lovely mother helped arrange for me to get a job in California at an acupuncture college doing some research. I think she had a vision that I might start to, change a bit. And in order to understand the research, which was photographing people's auras, you had to understand some Chinese medicine to make sense of the research. And I remember sitting in that very, very first class, and it was almost as though I'd seen the Matrix. When you suddenly see the code behind the world, it was absolutely just like that. And at the time, I was a very anxious, very stressed, lots of panic attacks individual who was really struggling with managing who I was and understanding the world, etc. And so suddenly I was sitting there and I saw the Matrix, and I saw how politics worked. I saw how why history was as it was. I understood myself in a different way. I started to look at, it was just, I saw the background patterns in the way that the world worked. And it just changed me. It rewired my brain. My anxiety went, and I can look at any situation and I can say, okay, well, this is happening because of this, and the next likely step is X or Y, and it's something my brain does. So I then went on and applied it to health, and like you say, kind of businesses, personal development, health, social change, recently been at the United Nations. It's kind of using it in all sorts of ways, both as a practitioner of health, but also looking at everything with this window of these 5 energies that just tell you how things function. So that's how I got into it. It was a brilliant, life-changing accident, and it's all I've ever done all my life is look at these energies and how the world works and help people to understand themselves, understand each other, relationships, etc.
And when you were in this first class in California, was it this, did you feel this feeling like, this is it? This is what I want to do in my life? Or did it evolve over time?
You mean in terms of purpose? In terms of our purpose?
Yeah, your personal one, like what you wanted to fill your life with professionally and personally.
Yeah, well, I think I'm like a lot of people. I like to have variety. So I certainly think if we look at purpose, a friend, a business partner of mine, Matthew, who's one of the co-founders of the 5 Institute, we put together a course called Find Your Purpose. and we can do some links to it, whatever. But the essential thing to that course is it looks at what is your core purpose, and then what's your expression of it. So I'm very clear, and I was very clear even at that stage in life, that my core purpose was that I wanted everybody in the world to have someone that's there for them. That's my central core purpose. The 5 energies and the health service, the health center I ran, and me as a practitioner, was an expression of that purpose rather than the purpose itself. So as a kindness ambassador, that's an expression of my desire that everybody in the world has someone that's there for them. So my core purpose is different than the energies. They're an expression of it. So to answer your question, did I know in that moment in time that this was my purpose? I think what I knew what it was an expression of my purpose, and it was a way to create a situation where everyone in the world had someone that was there for them. My confusion as a practitioner was that I thought it had to be me. So as a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, I thought that I had to be there for everybody. And I had a 2-year waiting list, and I would work just crazy hours. I would see 20, 30 people a day, and how hard I worked, my waiting list just got longer and longer, because I thought that I had to be the person that was there for everybody. But then we learn.
Yeah, and I find it so incredibly valuable to look at myself and my life through the lens of the 5 energies, and to do the vitality test and to learn about my dominant wood and earth energies, for example, and also the things you've been explaining to me. It was just such an eye-opener, and that is what makes me somehow think that purpose is something that reveals itself over time. We might have, at least to me it feels like this, because we get new lenses to look at ourselves. And the 5 energies for me have been very, very clarifying why I do behave in certain situations in a certain way, which I just did not understand before. And it does not mean that my life got so much easier, but I need less time to reframe and to put things into perspective. And this is so precious and valuable. And this is one of the big reasons why I wanted to speak with you about this today. And so to back up, can you give us an overview about what the 5 energies are and in which way they support us in looking at our lives and ourselves and everything else?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love to. What I've done is I've just put together, I've got a set of slides. And would it be helpful if we had some visual stuff to look at? Because I think that sometimes helps. Okay, what I'm going to do is do some very clever technology. Grab your screen, share it, and show these slides. Here we go.
Ooh, very good.
Oh yeah, can we see those okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so the 5 Institute, the big thing is we're about kindness. That's what we believe the world needs. Now, one way to do that, and particularly in terms of being kind to yourself and being, like you say, understanding yourself and having an easier life, is to understand yourself and others in a very profound way. And the vitality test gives you the ability to understand yourself and others in a very unique way. And one of the good things about it is it doesn't put us in into a box. It doesn't say you're an introvert or you're an extrovert. You're like this. What it does is it gives you a pattern, a shape that you are. And once you understand these energies and the shape you are, you can have this fluid movement and be lots of versions of yourself. So shall I just kind of run through the 5 energies and we can
yes,
we can see. So obviously there are 5 energies. The first one is water energy, and every single energy is related to a particular season, and the water energy is related to winter. Now in winter we fundamentally live with the consequences of our previous actions. So people with a lot of water energy, they're always going to be thinking about, okay, what's the consequences here? How's this going to play out? they tend to have this big perspective. Now, every energy also gives us something called a big question. And this is a question that we are constantly asking in life. And whenever we get into any situation or anything, we ask this question. So someone with a lot of water energy, they're always asking, am I safe? Is this safe? How will this play out? Or variations along those themes. And if you think about your friends, you can think, okay, I know certain people, and they always, their first response, well, oh, that doesn't sound very safe. Or what they'll do is they'll be taking lots of risks to find out whether things are safe or not. So that can be a classic one. The other thing about water energy is it's the only energy that leaves its mark on the earth. All the other energies, they come and go. This one, water leaves its mark on the earth, like Grand Canyons, glaciers. So people with a lot of water energy, they often are more mindful of their purpose, of their big why. They want to leave a mark on the earth in a way that other people think, well, actually, I want to make some people happy, or I want to make people feel loved, or I want to make people feel understood. Water energy, they say, I want to leave something behind that's significant. So they'll often set up these courses that are about find your purpose, because if you have your purpose, everything will be fine. You'll be brave, you'll be strong, you'll have all this energy. That isn't true. It's only true for some energy types. And in the course, we talk about that, but it has this, water energy is this big thing about purpose. As we get older, our water energy will rise slightly. So we start to think more about consequences, and we also start to think, okay, what's the point of my existence? Or we can have a water energy phase in our life when we start to reflect, because that's the other thing water energy does. It's about reflection. So we can have a water energy phase in our life when we become more water energy and we start reflecting, we start thinking, God, what's the bigger purpose in my life? Why am I here? What's this about? And you might look back in your past and think, oh, I did this, perhaps I shouldn't have. And that's a dangerous time that you can start beating yourself up, lowering your self-esteem. So water energy is about reflection, purpose, consequences, and this big question of, am I safe? We okay with that energy?
Yeah, would you say then, if I may ask, that it makes sense for us to take the vitality test regular, or at least when we feel like we enter a lot of change in our lives?
No, I think we just take it. Your energy type kind of stays the same. You just move into different phases.
Okay.
So I have in my vitality test profile, which was the one that you saw, I have virtually 0% water energy. So I'm not great at thinking what the long-term consequences are. I'm slightly more in the moment, and I'm not good at thinking about resources and reserves, because that isn't what my energy is about. I happen to be married to someone who thinks about that a lot, which is wonderful. But myself, I don't. So I have to, at the end of the day, I consciously reflect and think. I consciously, at the end of the day, become more water energy, because that isn't my natural energy. I'm almost blind to it. So my personal development and my consciousness shifts towards being more conscious of consequences, how things play, reserves, resources, legacy, etc., because that isn't my natural style. So I thought I make myself do that, or I choose to do that because it's helpful. So with the vitality test, just take it, recognize what your energies are, but decide whether or not to be more conscious that if you are low in an energy, you need to look at that more, because you won't do it naturally. You have a blind spot. So wood energy, again, it's related to a season, but this one is spring. And in spring, we fundamentally have everything that's new. It's new and it's fresh. So people with a lot of wood energy love new things and fresh things. But spring has two sides to it. It has this tense side before it starts, and then it has this when it bursts out. So it has this tension and then explosion. And people with a lot of wood energy will have that. They'll have this tight tension, and then this movement, nothing and lots of activity. Their big question is always, am I free and are we free? So you'll see people with a lot of wood energy that they'll say, okay, the best thing in life is to have a laptop star business. The important thing in life is to have freedom. And I've got these ideas and these things and plans, and they teach you how to have a life of freedom. If you've got a lot of water energy, actually a life of freedom might mean a life that isn't as safe. So that doesn't really appeal to me. So they buy the books about how to find your purpose and your big meaning and Simon Sinek and stuff like that. Whereas us wood energy types like you and me, we think, okay, how can we be free? How can we? And if we're not free, then it creates problems for us. So movement, freedom, lots of exercise, keeping things going is a wonderful thing for us wood energy types. We're also very creative. We have lots of ideas. Not all of them are very good ideas, and some of them become quite outlandish. So when they say, okay, I want to invent a hat for my dog. Oh yes, I've got an idea. And we come up with this, which might be very imaginative, but it might not be an ideal hat for a dog. So we always have to watch with a lot of wood energy that we think our ideas are wonderful. Others might not think they're quite so good, and we might not get them all finished. People with a lot of wood energy will always be fighting an injustice. They hate it when people break the rules that they think are right. But they're very happy themselves to break everybody else's rules if they don't think they are right. But injustice and fairness are a very important value for people with wood energies. And they will stand up to people much stronger themselves and become brave. This is how they become brave. When they're fighting an injustice, they become brave. When people with water energy find their purpose, they become brave. So this is how wood energy types get brave. Fire energy types, again, we've got the season. The season is summer. So we're looking at heat here. And the big question here for fire energy types is, am I loved and am I appreciated? And am I appreciated for who I really am? And they get brave when they feel loved and appreciated, and their confidence, and they can become more insecure if they don't feel loved and appreciated. So that's what makes them brave. So their big question is, am I loved? And it can sometimes be quite troublesome, because if we get very tired or stressed, this big question appears more. So people can sometimes get very needy or get very upset if they're not fully loved and appreciated. Now, people who have fire energy are very passionate, very sensitive, big emotions, and are very enthusiastic about things. So they'll often go out and be sharing and transmitting and giving a message with this incredible passion, but they're actually quite sensitive to what people think about them. So it's a challenge getting that balance right. Mm. And also because they're very passionate, they will say yes to everything. And as a result, they can sometimes burn out. So the secret with fire types is you've got to be super selective, and purpose is important, because you should be making your choices based on your purpose, not based on what you're excited about, because you'll be excited about everything. That makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they do love to talk. I've got a fair bit of water energy in me, fire energy in me. Okay, they love to talk, and they sometimes don't quite listen. Earth energy. This is one of like wood energy. Both of us share a lot of wood energy and a lot of earth energy. So earth energy, we've got a change in season here. What we are is we're in late summer. And late summer, everything is starting to cool down. It's those lazy, hazy days where everything starts to be slow, becomes slower. It's not as frantic and hot. So people with a lot of earth energy will have the ability just to settle and be more steady. And I can do that well if I'm not too excited. Their big question, earth energy, is do I understand and am I understood? All the time they're thinking, oh, do I? So my anxiety as a teenager, and it was horrific anxiety. I had to be medicated and all stuff just to try and control this anxiety. My anxiety was because I didn't understand. I didn't understand. I had early childhood trauma, and I didn't understand why things happen. So when I understood, when I first came in front of the energies, it gave me a map and a way to understand the world and understand any situation, no matter how complex. I can understand it. So anxiety just goes. And that's one of the things that we teach at the Five Institute for, particularly people with a lot of earth energy. It gives you a framework to understand yourself and other situations, which is why you found it helpful, because you think, okay, I kind of understand what's going on, so I can now relax and get on with my big mission in life.
And I feel understanding and also feeling understood for me comes with a sense of safety, and that gives this relaxation. Like, I get it, even though we probably never really get the whole picture of everything in a one single moment, but it's still this relief of, yeah, okay, I understand.
Yeah, I understand who I am.
Yeah.
And that I have ways for other people to understand me. And then we can be braver. Again, we come back to what makes us able to step into our greatness. And with earth energy, if you feel understood and you understand yourself, you can step into your greatness, or you understand what you need as an individual. We need rhythm and routine to keep things smooth. And so that's a battle with our wood energy that wants freedom, to have the rhythm and routine. But we need that because that's how we stay grounded.
Yeah.
And it's that dance between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the vitality test is a lovely pattern. It shows you how to dance between that desire for freedom and yet the desire for a rhythm routine that keeps you healthy. And so people with a lot of earth energy, they're often very, very good teachers, or they'll have a desire to teach or share because they want everybody to understand and be understood. And it's why I created the vitality test. Mm-hmm. We always get an interesting one. We get email. Thousands and thousands of people take the vitality test. And we get these emails from people saying, I've taken the vitality test. I don't think my answers are quite right. I don't think it's quite understood me well enough. I've come out as earth energy. They're the only, or they don't say what the energy is, and I'll not look at their profile. So by any chance, are you earth energy? Oh, yes, I am. I said, okay. And I have a little bit I send them about, that's your energy. Your big question is, do I understand and am I understood? And you won't feel totally understood by the vitality test until you get to know it. So just bear with it. That's your question, and that's fine. And we get lovely emails back going, oh, okay. As long as I'm understood. So people with a lot of earth energy, they have this desire to listen, to understand, to talk, to take their time. They're also very, very caring, nurturing people. So Princess Diana had a lot of earth energy, and she had this desire to bring her children up in a way and nurture. She was the first person to, as a well-known public figure, to hold people with HIV/AIDS at a time when people didn't understand what it was about, and she didn't understand what it was about. But her desire for people to feel nurtured and comforted was so immense. She went over that barrier of her fear in order for people to be understood and to cared for, and got very distressed when she didn't understand that the royal family doesn't work in the same way as other relationships. Mm-hmm. and got ill with that. But she's a lovely example of earth energy and nurturing. Metal energy, it's our last energy, and it's related to autumn. And in autumn, basically, things are finishing and things are ending. And metal energy, their big question is what's missing, what isn't done. So they're all the time searching, this isn't missing, this isn't done. They are horribly misunderstood. They're the most brilliant energy, and the world desperately needs this energy to fully shine. But the world has been taken over by fire energy types who think that positive thinking is the way forward, because that's an energy. fire energy, positive, oh, think positively, this, blah, blah, blah. So we've been sold that positive thinking is the way forward for every human being. So if someone with a lot of metal energy comes into the room and says, oh, this is missing, this isn't done. Oh, God, don't be so negative. Try to be more positive for once. But they're being brilliant. They are being their most brilliant self, spotting what's missing. My wife has a lot of metal energy, and when she worked on intensive care, she would walk and she would see things that hadn't been done, and a lot of water energy, things that weren't safe, and saved thousands and thousands of lives. Impacted thousands of lives, probably saved hundreds, just being able to see what's missing, what isn't done. And so it's a really misunderstood energy. So if you've got a lot of metal energy, so there I am concerned that people are misunderstood and they aren't understood. So if you've got a lot of metal energy, you do not diminish this value. Say what's missing, what isn't done. And if people say, oh, you're being negative, you're not. You're giving an absolute gift to the world. It's very, very important that we have it. So people with a lot of metal energy, they're all the time, they're just looking for what's missing and what isn't done. Sometimes what they'll do in order to measure what's there and what isn't there, sometimes they'll love numbers, because numbers don't lie. Numbers say what's there and what isn't there. So they say, oh, you're all into numbers, you're not into people, just measurements, that you're disconnected, you're saying what's missing. It doesn't fit this positive thinking model that we've been given by all these fire energy types that are on stage saying how wonderful it is to be positive. So they're very misunderstood. So got the big questions. So out of all these things, just remember the big questions and try and see if you can spot that with people. So water, am I safe? Is it safe? Wood energy, this desire for freedom. Fire energy, love me, love me. Earth energy, this big thing about understanding and being understood. And metal energy, this utter brilliance about being able to find what's missing and what isn't done. The fire energy, I was a bit mean. I said, oh, love me, love me. But their ability to be in the moment and think, how is this landing with the other person? How are they feeling at this moment in time? They can adjust their tone and their sensitivity to really allow people to fall in love with themselves and to be fully emotional. And they do that by asking this question, am I loved? Am I appreciated? How is this landing with you? So I was a bit mean saying, love me, love me. It's not about that. It's about their sensitivity to any situation and their ability to read it and feel it in a way that other energies perhaps can't. So I think that's it. Yeah, there we go.
And I think for everyone who is watching and listening, I mean, you might get a feeling for which kind of energy type or types are your predominant ones. And I can only recommend you to take the vitality test and to see if you're feeling it goes with your results. And speaking of these incredible 5 energies, and just when you were describing like mine and also my husband's energy, it felt again like, yes, yes. And the fact that, well, there's this new year, 2019, and I believe many, or maybe most everybody, thinks about change when it comes to New Year's or birthdays or other big events in lives. And there are changes we desire because we have a vision for our lives. And there are things we actually want to have out of our lives because they bother us. And what I see in myself, but also in many people I speak with, is that when we really come to terms with change, we hit our biggest resistances. It's like what we desire most, we fight against it, and it sounds so counterintuitive. And there are so many explanations why change often doesn't come easy and why we really have to work with it and through it. And I would like to know, how do you see it under the perspectives of these 5 energies and how it can help us and support us dealing with change when we know our energies?
Oh God, that you are so good. These questions are just like, oh, I love it.
Thank
That's such a
you.
good question. Okay, there's a really kind of simple way that we can look at this. Is often when we're going to have change, what it'll do is it'll bump into our big question. So if a change is happening and you think, actually, for this change to happen, actually, I don't necessarily feel safe or resourced. If you've got a lot of water energy, I don't necessarily feel safe or resourced with this change. Or am I going to end up with somewhere where I'm not as secure as I was? Is there going to be a vulnerability to my safety? And if any of that is sparked off, then the change becomes very difficult. So if you are having changed yourself or you're working with someone with a lot of water energy, you've got to make sure that the change is resourced and it allows them to feel safe. So that, whereas with wood energy, if you feel that the change in some way is going to trap you or block you or hold you in or frustrate you or stop you in some way, or you don't have freedom about that change, then it can be very difficult and you can resist the change because actually, am I going to get trapped here and stuck, or am I just being told what to do? Hang about, nobody can tell me what to do. Or if the change feels unjust, none of those will feel fine with you and you will resist the change. Whereas if you've got the fire energy and the change has a possibility that, say, for example, you're going to step up into, and one of the real things about this year, 2019, is that it's a very, 2018 was about us dealing with a lot of our inner stuff, our real inner game. 2019 is taking the fact that we've done that and putting it into a, excuse me, and putting it into a really big way out into the world. So we're going to have to really, all of us are going to have to really step up this year because, excuse me, because a lot of really serious things need to be done. So particularly fire energy types, they're going to be sensitive to their stepping up and the change and the bigger role that they're going to take. And if there's any concern that they won't be loved or fully appreciated for who they really are, then that will make them resistant to the change. But they're often the voice of the change, and you've got to find some way to get over that sensitivity to what other people think of you. And I always say to myself, what other people think of me is none of my business. It's none of my business what they think of me. It's in their head, and I've just really got to stop being so nosy. I shouldn't be nosy. It's what's in their head. It's nothing to do with me. And the other one I really think is true, and I heard a lovely lady called Fabienne Fredrickson was talking about this, was that there are certain people that are really stepping up into a big role. And if they give me feedback, I'm really interested in listening. I'll listen to that feedback and say, okay, that's really good advice, thank you. I'm actually not interested in the advice from people that are sitting at the sidelines going like this.
Yeah.
If you're not in the game, then I'm not really interested in your opinion. If you're sitting there trying to bring everybody else down, get in the game and then I'll care about what you think of me. Otherwise, it sounds very arrogant and it isn't as though I don't care. I can't let myself care about what everybody thinks of me, because it will paralyze me. It will paralyze my fire energy.
Yeah.
So again, with change, you have to change. Excuse me. You have to change the level that you can accept criticism. And if the change involves looking like people won't like you anymore, you've got to find some way to get over that. Earth energy with change, if they don't understand the change, if they don't understand how things are going to work, how things are going to play out, what's going to happen, they can find that change paralyzing and they cannot step into their greatness or do this stuff because how will this work out? And will I be able to do this? And will I understand? And etc. That can be a real challenge that stops. And there's that lovely saying that God doesn't call the qualified. He or she qualifies the called. And that's a really good one for people with a lot of earth energy and for every energy type, that God does not call the qualified. It doesn't call the people that are qualified. He qualifies, he or she qualifies the people that are called. So you will get your qualifications, you will get your ability to do these things. That will come. So for people with a lot of earth energy, that can be a challenge. I don't know. For earth energy types and any energy type, you will get your qualifications as long as you get in the ring. And you start doing and stepping up. And like I said, in 2019 is really a year where you've got to just stretch a bit for the betterment of the planet, for people and stuff. The third thing, the fifth energy, metal energy with change, their big struggle with change is if they think that they will lose something. They really struggle with loss. And if they think, actually, I'm really going to lose something here, or something feels like it's going to be missing, or the change is leading to imperfection. They love metal energy types. They're perfectionists. They like things to be done well. So if the change looks like it's going to be messy and incomplete and not perfect in some way, or they're going to miss out or lose something that's important for them, then they will resist the change. So you've got to really understand your energy and think, okay, I'm struggling with this change just because I don't understand what's going on, or I'm struggling with the change because I don't feel safe, and get some help and some support in that area. Or just know that it's normal to worry about whatever it is you're worrying about, because that's what your energy type will do. And one of the things that we do, the 5 Institute, is we help people design lives and businesses to suit their energy type. So you're not going to, if you've got a lot of wood energy, do not design your business when you're going to be trapped doing the same thing. Design it that it gives you freedom. But if you, or design your business to suit your energy type, or design your life to suit your energy type, or whatever. Just as soon as you're aware of the energies, you can make much, much better choices. Gets clearer as to what you should and shouldn't do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I would just like to dive straight into the other, I mean, it seems like to be the other side of the coin. And that is when we say we've made a decision, or we are developing our vision, there are those moments where we feel we gain momentum. It's almost like waves. We feel like almost the universe is conspiring with us, and there's this tingling and sparkling energy. And what I realized in the past, and I do still sometimes, is that when I don't know what to do with this momentum, it subsides, and this is so frustrating. So my next question, so if I look at these periods where that's just so like promising, and hey, there is, let's go do that, something, or be something, how does it help us to know our energy type?
Okay. Well, different energies will sit into that space more easily. So water energy types, when in that time, they will actually tend to reflect and pause and think, okay, what's happening, what's important, what's the big message here. They'll have a much bigger perspective. So they tend to have a bit of an easier time at this particular stage. So what you could do, regardless of your energy, is you could just do more reflection. You can just pause and reflect and say, okay, what, because things like we're talking about, they're, although they're appearing on the surface in different places, they're actually connected under a bigger message. So you can often say, okay, well, what's the bigger thing that I'm being pointed towards here? What's the connection between these things that don't seem connected? So reflect on that. And that can help us do it. With wood energy types at that particular stage, one of the challenge can be that they'll have these hints of things that they want, and then they'll kind of run around and do all sorts of things, and the ideas will just get bigger and bigger. So it almost collapses in on itself because you've made it too big. And you go, this, and it's like that, and then it collapses in on itself. So it's not as though it doesn't come to anything. It did come to anything, but it collapsed in on itself. And that then becomes, because the whole thing about the five energies is us to be more conscious of who we are. And our consciousness is like, like switches, lights that have that switch that you can turn up and the light gets brighter. I think of consciousness as just purely an ability to see things more clearly. And at times our consciousness dims down, and other times it gets brighter. So one of the things is the energies is to recognize, okay, if you've got a lot of wood energy, you need to be really conscious at that time when the flow is happening, that you contain some boundaries around it. And you design it in a way that will actually come to fruition. If a tree just did blossom everywhere and tried to make every single bit of blossom turn into fruit, the tree would die and no fruit would ever ripen. And that's what we do as wood energy. We try and ripen every bit of fruit. Whereas in nature, they don't. They get rid of most of it and just keep a few bits of fruit that they take to the place of ripeness and value. So wood energy types at that expansive stage, we've got to contain it, have boundaries. And you might say, okay, purpose, which one of these ideas really matches my purpose, my big thing that I'm here, or my current expression of it, and narrow it down. Fire energy types, when they're in this phase of expansion, lots happening, they can just become too enthusiastic and say yes to everything, because lots of things will be coming your way. These moments of whenever the world is flowing, actually you have an abundance of opportunities coming your way. And then you go, oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
You burn out. So I remember with someone with a lot of fire energy, when they had this they were in this phase, they're saying, oh, what should I do next? And I say no to most things. That's what you should do next. So with fire energy types, often what I'll suggest is that what you do is, in that phase, as all these opportunities come in, say, okay, I'll get back to you about that, which will be so hard because you'll be super enthusiastic, and then write them down. Then at the end of the week, in a cool, calm, water energy, reflective state, not in your fired up, exciting thing, look down and say, what am I actually going to say yes to? What am I going to fulfill? And you narrow it down in a much cooler way. Because if you say yes to everything that comes your way in these passionate, exciting times, you will burn out and not actually do. And then again, it will collapse in on itself, but more because you're collapsing in on yourself and you'll have to withdraw. But it was a selection issue. Earth energy types, when you're in that stage with all these opportunities going, what we can tend to do is think we need to know all the next stages to really step into it. So we don't actually get going because we don't know all the stages that will happen. Mm-hmm. So again, it's just recognizing, okay, my desire to understand is a gift, and at this point it's be a challenge. Or you might find someone that's done something similar, and you say, okay, just tell me the next few steps to take. So if I was to walk to or go to your house, I kind of wouldn't know every single step of the way, but I could have a rough idea that I'd like to come for afternoon tea. So just stick with the idea and perhaps ask, Nina, I want to come for afternoon tea. What's the best way to get to your house? Whereas
know that you're always invited.
Thank you very much. That was a good line in there. Thank you. We'll speak after. And with metal energy types, when they have this place where things are opening up, in a way, they're one of the energies that do best with it, because they can be really selective and work out what's valuable and what isn't valuable. The challenge can be is that they will often find fault in things, and they'll see what's missing and what isn't right. So they're presented with this incomplete thing that's in their gift to complete, and they'll say, oh, I'd like to do that, but it doesn't do this, it doesn't have this, it's not got this doesn't work, it's really inefficient, this systems there, and the people seem very disorganized there, and they're like, their gift is to find out what's missing and what's wrong, but that can completely paralyze them, because then they do nothing, because everything has something missing and is incomplete and is imperfect, and their gift is to help that, but they can sometimes never step into it, because why would I? Or what they'll do is they'll step into something and then find all the imperfections and then be disillusioned and have to leave. So I tell everybody all my faults, so no one can ever be disappointed in me. Because particularly with the 5 energies, people with a lot of metal energy will sometimes go, oh, I love this system. It's a complete system. It seems really perfect. I can see how everything, oh, good, I found the perfect system. And if they believe it's perfect, they will find fault with it and then be disillusioned and so upset. So really, I'm really clear that this is just a way to look at the world that has its usefulness and it has its incomplete. It's a useful tool that will help support you. It is not perfection and everything. And I don't know everything, and I am highly imperfect. So don't start thinking this is the answer to everything. It isn't. It's a utterly brilliant way to navigate the unknown and the imperfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know a better way.
And a wonderful lens, I find, to make more sense of who we are and what we do and the bigger picture. Yeah. And I want to bridge from here to another lens, and that is the lens of kindness, because you call yourself a kindness ambassador, and I've been thinking about kindness. And one thing I realized is that I have a feeling that represents kindness, but if I had to describe what it is with words, then that's actually pretty challenging. And it shows me exactly, or maybe not so exactly, about what I believe it is. So my question for you is, why is kindness so important for you, and how would you explain what it actually is?
Okay. Well, if we go back to kind of my big purpose is I want everybody in the world to have someone that's there for them. Kindness is a pretty good way to get that, isn't it? People value themselves, they value each other. With the Vitality Test, we do a lot of work with relationships, and you've seen we've got content out to support people in order for people to understand each other, to feel really, really, really deeply understood, and to help support each other's relationships. So, and that's part of the mission on kindness, to create kindness between couples, between relationships, and stuff. So for me, kindness is the vehicle to allow everyone to be there for each other in the fullest sense, to be non-judgmental, to be accepting, to be forgiving, to be all the things that we need to have to support each other. As to your question, how would I define kindness? I think about kindness as living in a space between love and compassion. So you have love and you have compassion. Compassion can sometimes be that from this place here, I'm looking at you and I feel compassion for you. Whereas kindness, it's more on an even level, but it's not the same as love. So it lives in the space in between love and compassion. And it's the ability to consider the other person, to be aware of the other person, to be considerate to yourself, to be aware of yourself. And with kindness, we're really, really clear that kindness is not about random acts of kindness and being kind to other people. That isn't what kindness is about. It's one aspect of kindness, but it's not kindness itself. And we talk about having a kind set, which is like your mindset, except it's all about kindness. And a healthy kind set is really, how am I kind to me, kind to other people, and kind to the planet in equal measure? So there's this dance between kindness to me, other people, or the planet. Because you'll often have people say, oh, my friend, they're far too kind. And I'll say, I don't think they are. I don't think they're kind enough. Well, they are. They're just far too kind. No, what they've got is they've got their kindness going too much in. Their kindness is out of balance, as in they're being excessively kind to other people of the planet at the expense of being kind to themselves. And so they're not being too kind. They're just imbalanced within their kindness. And with kindness, we're often the most kind to what we value the most. So we value our partnership or a friendship, or we value being needed or wanted, or we value helping people, then we will externally express kindness. Whereas if we don't quite value or appreciate ourselves to the extent we should, maybe we're not then as kind to ourselves, or we don't really appreciate this phenomenal planet that we live on, that's teetering on the edge of destroying, of dying. If we don't truly value the water we drink, the air we breathe, and we take all those things for granted, and we don't, then why would we be kind to the planet? Because we don't really value it.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of work with trying to get people to really value things, value themselves in a very deep way, and not beat themselves up about the stuff that they think isn't good, but just to really value and see their brilliance. And then from that, they get to be kinder, be more considerate.
And there was one thing you mentioned. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No. I realized my fire energy was talking quite a lot. I needed to stop.
Sometimes I lack the feeling of when a stream is like finished, or communication, and because I feel like I have already the next idea. So
the
thing is, you said non-judgmental within our conversation about kindness, and I think often we even don't know how judgmental we are, because it's our internal world in which we live. And that brings me to the story of boxes, because I think the story of boxes so clearly makes us aware about our own judgments, the labels we put on things, even on words like kindness. And I think we could go into a whole other conversation if certain acts that seem to be kind are really kind and whatever. But we did a whole conversation about the story of boxes, but still I would love to, would you point out the key elements here again for why it is so important to know our boxes?
Okay. So this was some stuff that I'd done when I was speaking at the United Nations, and a little bit of name dropping there, but it was a very exciting thing to do. And one of the things they were looking at was why we're not resolving this gender difference. And one of the things I was saying was, the problem is that what we do is we put things in boxes. We say women are like this, men are like this. Women are more collaborative, men are more like this. And as soon as you start putting things like gender into a box, then it starts trapping people in those boxes. And between those boxes, there is a space to have an argument or a discussion or a debate or an inability to come together. And the story of boxes really came from that conversation about how we put so many things in boxes. And Runa Magnus, that was there with, really picked up on that, about just how we just put everybody into boxes. And so saying, okay, because you are this person, it means you're like this. And therefore you're this person, it means you're like that. And that may or may not be true. And it really has this, we start judging people, we start trapping people, we start limiting ourselves and thinking, oh, I can't do this because I am. And are you really, or is that just a box that you have? So I think I can't remember in the interview we did, I was talking about people are really shocked that Adolf Hitler was a vegetarian. When you say, oh, Adolf, really, was he a vegetarian? Well, why would you be shocked that Adolf Hitler chose not to eat meat? Well, we're shocked because we have vegetarians in a box. And in the vegetarian box, we have that they don't eat meat, they're peace-loving, might be slightly hippie, they might be like this, they're very considerate, they're kind, they're gentle people, they tend to be, we have all this stuff. And the problem is that Adolf Hitler didn't fit in our vegetarian box because he was a mass murdering psychopath who just happened not to eat. So, and whereas mass murdering psychopaths, we wouldn't have that they're vegetarians in that box. So we get really confused by people. And it's a really classic example of how we just create all these boxes. And we do it because it helps keep the world organized. The world is complicated. So we do that, and boxes make us feel safe. We can be in a tribe, in a box, and we all stick together and all have these beliefs. But then it isolates and stops other people getting in there. Or we can reclaim a position by owning a box. Oh, we are like this. Well, that may or may not be true. So the idea of the story boxes was to explore how these boxes exist, how we get out of them, and the danger of the boxes in terms of how we judge other people and how we limit ourselves. And it's got, in the story boxes, it's got about the 5 energies in there, some others, and a lot of my other work, and lots of stories, and great stuff from Runa and myself. So it's a really, people are loving it. People are loving the book.
Mm-hmm. I do too. And so for everybody who would like to know more about you, the vitality test, the 5 energies, the book, I mean, there's so many things to know about you. Or maybe if they even want to work with you, where can they go and find more out about you and your work?
So they can go to 5institute.com, and there you'll find the vitality test. We've got Find Your Purpose, the relationship book. We've got lots of other stuff there, and the vitality test, and so lots of support there. If you go to my website, which is nicholas-haines.com, you'll find the No More Boxes there. You'll find something called Light Up Lives, which is a wonderful local movement we're doing. You find the 5 Institute. You find the relationship content. And in March, I've got a book coming out called Feeling Good About Yourself, which is, I think it's probably my best work. I think it's probably the best thing I've ever done. And that will be coming out in March, so look out for that. I think it's the best thing I've ever done. He said modestly, but it's the thing that I think has one of the biggest impacts. The vitality test does, and this then just takes it somewhere else.
I'm very much looking forward to reading it.
Yeah. And I shouldn't have said that. I think the story of boxes is also a good. They're all stuff that I'm passionate about. So
yeah, and we will link to all important places around you and your work right below this interview. And at this point, where it's almost time to close this conversations, I want to ask you: is there anything important we left out that needs to be said right here and right now?
No, I think we could always have conversations that go on. I think we've given enough for people to digest and chew over. Just other than saying, if you find it interesting, then we're here. And to thank you for creating this space to have these conversations. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for sharing this time and space with me. Every conversation we have, I so much enjoy it. And I'm very happy we are getting to share a conversation with our audience and yours and whoever might come across it. So I'm saying goodbye, everybody. And always remember to take the driver's seat of this car called your life and create your lifetime to your taste. It's our pleasure here at Mind Gourmet to support you with our food for thought. Bye, everyone, and bye, Nick.
Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.